So welcome. We will get started. My name is Mary Eleanor Power, and I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications with Dalhousie University's College of Continuing Education. And I would like to begin by acknowledging that Dalhousie University is located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq. We are all treaty people. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Hesitations and Hacks. And I am going to throw it over to Ali to kick us off and introduce herself. And if you have any questions throughout, please feel free to add them in the chat, and we'll be more than happy to answer them throughout. And we'll hopefully have a few minutes at the end to address any of them. So Ali, over to you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Can everyone see my screen with a little pumpkin on the top? Can I get a thumbs up? Yes? Okay. So we're going to start by, I want you, while I introduce myself, to throw a couple of horror stories into the chat for us of things that you've seen people do, whether it's clients or just people in general, that they have done online that might hurt their job search. And I'm not talking about like, oh, someone's having a solo red cup, you know, and maybe is a little too tipsy on their Facebook. I'm talking about like the horrible things that you have seen. Scare us, Halloween is coming. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, my name is Ali Breen, and I operate at the intersection of digital online life and career development. I worked in Nova Scotia Work Centres for quite some time, which are government-funded nonprofit career centres. And then I branched out and created a private practice where I generally help people in their mid-30s who are employed but really stuck and want something different and don't know where they want to go with that. So I do a lot of online branding and digital marketing work, not just for clients, but also for career development associations, which is kind of cool. So what I wanted to do today is talk about 5 fears that often happen when we are talking to clients about online job searching and online branding. So one of the things that I would love to start with is sometimes people say that your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. Okay, so let's break that down. What people say about you when you're not in the room. I think that was true 10 years ago. Now, your online brand is what someone can Google about you, which is a little bit scarier. So it is totally okay and normal that people have fears and hesitations and feel overwhelmed about creating an online brand, or the fact that they've realized, wow, if I Google myself, I have an online brand that I haven't even thought about controlling or curating or editing. That is something that is often quite shocking to people when I start to talk to them about these sorts of opportunities. So let's jump into the first fear that often comes up, which is privacy. So you'll hear things like, I don't want to overshare. My privacy is super important to me. The rules keep changing about if I change my security settings here, tomorrow Facebook might completely get rid of that security setting and then all my things are public. Isn't Facebook evil now, right? All of those sorts of things. And those are legitimate fears. Big data is scary. We are living in a world where all of these companies have access to all sorts of things. Yes, your phone is listening to you. Yes, Alexa, that turns on your lights and your radio in the morning, is listening to you. You have a choice about how much access you want these companies, these algorithms, to have about you and your privacy. And your clients have that choice as well. And a lot of us just have no idea what's normal or what's acceptable. And the answer is whatever you're comfortable with, once you know what it is that's possible. So you can turn off the setting on your phone that's always listening to you. You can turn off your location settings on your Fitbit. You can do that. A lot of people don't, but you can. And sometimes it's a trade-off. We decide that the fact that my Fitbit is tracking me and where I go gives me the ability to meet my fitness goals, and I'm happy to trade my data for the Fitbit software. Sure, some people make that decision, that's okay. And that's the thing about your clients. Some of them are gonna be like, I don't care about this, I don't care about my privacy. And some are gonna be really, really, really upset about it. So if your clients don't want to talk about themselves online at all, and they don't want to job search online at all, that is okay. If they don't want to have a social media presence at all, sometimes that happens for, I just don't want to, I'm a private person, I don't want to do it. And sometimes it happens for reasons like, I'm a domestic violence survivor and I do not want to be trackable online. Or sometimes you have a client that's reintegrating into the world after being incarcerated and their online brand is not going to be ideal. So it is okay if clients do not want to be on social media. If they don't, the best thing to say to an employer who asks, hey, we Googled you and we didn't find, anything about you, which is weird because employers will say that. They will Google you. And if you're not there, they will ask you why, right? Because it seems fishy, is, you know what? I really am concerned about data and big data, and my privacy is very important to me. So I've chosen to not be on social media. That is one of the best things that you can say if you choose not to. So privacy is both a fear and a tool. Here's what I wanted to say about privacy that is the most important thing. We all talk about how we want to be authentic online and how when people are being fake or people are being influencers or people are being this or that or the other thing, it's very frustrating, right? It's not about what you hide when you're online, it's about what you protect. You don't have to overshare. You don't have to put every single thing that's going on in your life. In fact, we probably don't want to know every single thing that's going on in your life. But sometimes we put something out on our Facebook or our Instagram that says, I like to spread kindness around like confetti. But then the next time I see you in real life, IRL, in Shoppers Drug Mart, you're a total jerk to me. That's not you being authentic, right? So it's not about what you hide. It's about what you protect. Comes back to this thing about being authentic means being real, being yourself online. But it doesn't mean you have to share absolutely everything. Whatever it is that you feel like you want to protect, that is okay. That's not you hiding anything. It's like putting your best foot forward when you walk off the elevator for an interview. That's how I tend to explain it to clients who are worried about what they're going to share and what they're not going to share. The other piece of that is very important to think about is that when we decide to put something on the internet, it stays there. And I will get to that in one of our other fears. So here are 2 levels of tips. The first, you'll see this as I go through my presentation. The first tip is a beginner tip. The second tip is for someone who's already pretty digital literate and they want to level up. So first tip is Google yourself, or with your client right next to you through Zoom or whatever, because you can't be next to each other right now. Google them in an incognito tab, in a tab where it's a secret tab and your browser history isn't affecting the stuff. Google them. Find out what comes up, delete old accounts that they're not using, and lock down any others to be very, very, very limited as to what someone can see if they just Google your client, okay? Normally what comes up is LinkedIn, and normally people have a very weak LinkedIn profile. One of the tip sheets you're gonna get from us at the end of this webinar is easy wins for LinkedIn. Easy things to do to make your LinkedIn profile a bit better. For some reason, when you Google someone's name, LinkedIn has a great way to show up high up in the search engine functions. Also, if I'm an employer or recruiter, I'm going to click on the LinkedIn before I'm going to click on the Instagram, unless I'm in an artist or design field, and then I might click on the Insta. Okay. So first beginner tip when it comes to privacy, find out what's out there. Google yourself. Level up tip for your people that are already digital literate. Create public albums. Lock down things you don't want people to see, but create public albums and content that starts showcasing your professional brand. For example, if I want to get into green economy jobs, if I want to start saving the world with climate change or saving the trees or doing some zero waste stuff with a local employer like the Tear Shop, what I want to do is have a public Facebook album or an accessible album on Instagram that allows me to show that I have an amazing urban garden on my 4x4-foot deck. Because that's social proof that it's not just I've decided that I randomly like the environment now. These are the things I'm doing in my life that I can share that fit in with the brand of I'm an environmentally conscious person and I'm passionate as an employee working in your environmentally conscious, driven organization. Okay, next fear, and I'm going to go through these a bit quicker. Fear number 2, overwhelm. I don't have time to start. I don't know where to start. I don't know how. I just don't get Twitter. This is all new to me. Or I'm just like, I'm online all the time for other things, and now I have to be online for career too. Overwhelm. So it's not about being everywhere. It's about being strategic. First thing that you should do, whether you are a beginner or whether you are up there in your digital literacy and a little bit more advanced in your digital literacy, is to put the same bio and photo across all of your platforms, wherever you have a digital presence. And that goes for your email. You can have a picture in your email that comes up, your Facebook, whatever. Make sure that that picture and the bio is the same. Again, in the tip sheet that you're going to receive, there's an exercise you can go through yourself as a career professional, as well as with a client, about creating a bio and different approaches to do that. But in mine, you'll often see the word dream booster. And I put that in because I generally, in my private practice, deal with millennial clients who are employed, who are privileged because they can afford career services. And so I want them to know that that's the kind of coaching they'll get from me. It's not executive coaching, it's dream boosting. That's part of my brand. I don't know if you guys noticed, I'm a bit extroverted. So I throw that right into every one of my bios so that it's there. That is strategic. And I do it across all the platforms because I don't know where people are going to come from to find me. But when they do, I want them to know what they're getting. So if you have only one, that's okay. If you have two, make sure they're both very similar. The level up tip for overwhelm is to just start writing or engaging. Writing is different than engaging, and here's why. You can write a post and people will respond to it. Some people don't want to write. Some people feel like they have nothing to say. That's okay. If you see something that is interesting, instead of just hitting that like button, share it and comment. Share it and say why you're sharing it with a comment. This is cool because I'm interested in this, because this totally aligns with what I'm passionate about, because, or just like, this is cool. Share, right? So many of us are scrolling, and we like, and that's not enough. If you want to level up, but you're feeling overwhelmed, one of the best things to do is actually comment and share. Okay, next one is the past. I know I talked about this a little bit. This is a very scary one. I definitely ranted about this thing. I have old pictures. I have Cuba bikini shots. I'm a totally different person now than when I was 15 years ago on Facebook. There is something called cancel culture that happens when someone does something either recent or has done something in their past. people find out and the internet attacks them. And that is the reality. But it's not impossible to do a brand sweep. So these fears are totally legit. Let me tell you one story. I had a client that was going through a very in-depth process to be a air flight attendant, okay? And so they had gone through like phone screening, ATS screening, like several different interviews, and they were in the training part, okay? So they were in sort of the onboarding training part. And then I think it was like a week or so of training. Day 3, this person was told, you're out. We don't want you to come back. Your candidacy is no longer being considered for this position. Thanks, bye-bye. And so I encouraged this client, because they had put so much work and so much effort into their candidacy thus far, to be brave and ask, why? Why did this happen? And it turned out that a recruiter did a deep dive on their Twitter, and that 3 years prior, they had that particular airline that they were trying to get hired with had lost this person's luggage, and they blasted them on Twitter. They didn't think about it that later on, right, that would come back to haunt them, but it did. This is an extreme example. Not every recruiter is going to deep dive on your Twitter, but they might go onto your Twitter and type the words Air Canada or WestJet or Porter and find out if you ever said anything negative, right? And then, ta-da, no job for you. So, is the past a legitimate fear? Totally. A brand sweep is not impossible to do. In fact, it's a very, very good idea to do. So there's an app for that. Yeah, you can use an app and search for keywords that you think might come up. Sometimes people just simply search for swear words. Sometimes people search for political words, religious words, some of those things that we tend to screen out for our clients as much as we can. Some people will screen for the name of potential employers that they are thinking of going for, just in case, right? We live in a culture where sometimes we say really, really nice things when we get great service, when we find a great product, when something great happens in our lives. But most often, we live in a culture where we open our phones, we open our computers, and we have a little rant time. That's okay, except when it definitely ruins our chances to land a job. So there's an app. You can search for keywords, but you will notice in red writing, I have data creep warning. Remember the first one about privacy? When you give access to apps that search for keywords, they're getting everything. They're getting all your content. So if you're okay letting an app look at all the tweets you've ever done so that they can search the keywords for you very quickly, go ahead and do that. But be warned that you are essentially handing over all the tweets you've ever done, okay? So, and you can do it with tweets or Facebook or any of these social media programs. A level up option is to not use an app and just do it yourself. Do a deep dive every week, spend an hour going through some past stuff that you have and delete things that are not on brand anymore. Because I'm a different person now is the one that comes up the most for me when I'm helping clients figure all of this out. Not necessarily the Cuba shots or I definitely ranted. It's I'm a different person now, and that whole album or that whole idea that I talked about on LinkedIn 4 years ago, I've learned so much now, I look like an amateur, right? So you can go through your feeds and delete things that don't apply anymore. Okay, fear number 4, I am boring. No one wants to see my scrambled eggs. Not everyone has a blog, and not everyone should have a blog. It's a waste of time. Why should I be doing this at all? I'm boring. I have nothing to say. Okay. Social media is not a bulletin board. It's a two-way street. It is an opportunity for you to engage. Remember when I was talking about how it is a bit scary that the thing about branding used to be your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room, but now it's your brand is what I can Google about you and creep about you online. That is scary, but it's also really cool. There are lots of reasons to be fearful and to be a bit hesitant about how much you want to engage online, but there are lots of reasons and rewards for why it's a good thing. ATS, miles and miles and miles of phone screenings and robots and AI separates you from the person that will hire you now as a job seeker. 100%. The job seeking machine has become more and more inhuman. Let's be honest. Let's just lay that on the table. It is very, very challenging to just speak to the person that will hire you without jumping through 18 digital hoops. But you know what you can do? You can connect one-on-one with humans using these social platforms. You can get onto that two-way street. Yes, have a bulletin board. Have your bio and same picture across all of your platforms, 100%. But then stand by the bulletin board and chat with other people that are also putting up their notice that says, I'm looking for this, I'm interested in this. Social media, social. Okay, so how do you do this? All right, you might need to have this conversation, which will also be in the tip sheet, with your clients. Think about this for yourself as I go through these questions with you. Where do you hang out online? Why? Where do you think you want to build an online professional brand and why? Because those are two different things. Where do you go all the time? Why? Where do you think you should be and why? And then this is the bonus piece that starts getting people to think about possibilities rather than fear. Out of the fear mindset into the growth mindset. What things are you sharing online that could be a bonus to boost up your resume? What things are you or have you shared in the past that could get you screened out? Let's think about those horror stories we were putting in the chat. Name 3 people or 3 topics that you'd love to just geek out with when it comes to the dreams you have for your life, for your career, for the pieces of your future that you're working towards. If you start having these types of conversations with your clients, this becomes about the possibilities and less about the fears. This is where I usually start. And then I say, I'm sure you have a ton of fears. I have a ton of hacks to help you address those fears. But first, I want to talk about what's possible. Okay. So the fear was I'm boring. Here are the hacks. Beginner 1, start searching for people to connect with and engage. Just start looking for people you want to talk to and talk to them. Leveling up is that you are going to create something, you're going to share something, or you're finding cool stuff and you're sharing it. That's what curate means. You'll see curate a lot if you get into social media. It just means that you're like a museum curator, but for the internet. And you're finding this really interesting article about this thing. And you're finding this really funny image about that thing. And you're sharing them about a particular topic. Okay, fear number 5, just plain old, it's scary. And I noticed a typo on my slide, so all of you resume writers, I see it. Okay, it's scary. Twitter is a cesspool. People are mean. What if I get trolled? If I speak out and be an advocate about something, do I have to be an advocate about everything? These are legit word-for-word questions and comments I have received when I'm working with people on online branding and online job searching. And it's true, it is scary. This is, again, all of these are legitimate fears. These are not myths that I'm busting. These are real. Okay. Here's the other thing about social media. It's not a megaphone unless you want it to be. There are so many reasons why social media has been a powerful tool for the masses. There are so many reasons why social media has been a powerful tool for clients, for job seekers, for artists, for underrepresented groups and individuals to be able to break through barriers that were there before that can be just, boom, pushed right through because social media exists, which is awesome. But it also makes you feel, as a citizen living in this world, trying to make a difference, that posting about your scrambled eggs is kind of a jerk thing to do in this day and age. So if you were scared about being an advocate, being an ally, just being a human and saying something like Black Lives Matter, post things that are personal or that may be controversial, and I'm saying that with air quotes because I do not personally feel that Black Lives Matter is controversial, but your random aunt might. Post that stuff in private groups and feeds and see how you feel. Post it to your friends. Post it in groups that are private. Post it in places as a beginner that are safe and that you know everyone shares those same ideals. Doing this does create an echo chamber though. So if you want to be an ally or an advocate, and you do want to make a difference with some of your social media, and that's part of what you want to do in general in your life, in your career, then the level up is to decide where you stand and put it right in your bio. Will you get trolled? Probably not, because you're not Chrissy Teigen. You're not someone that's famous talking about these things. If you do, there are mute buttons, there are block buttons, there are lots of allies online that will come to your aid and report people. It's not a megaphone unless you want it to be, but if you do, it's really powerful. Okay, questions, objections, ideas. Here I am, and you can connect with me here. So go ahead and take a screenshot of this if you like. Any questions in the chat? I wasn't looking at the chat at all, so I don't know if it's on fire or not.
No, and I would have jumped in and flagged if there were any questions, but no, Robin just shared a horror story earlier in the webinar, and it's just said that a horror story was a client who put a large number of posts on social media stating very, very angry things about former employers.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a don't.
That's a don't. That's definitely a don't. And I also wanted to say that part of this is a module that I have created in the new certificate of professional development that the College of Continuing Education at Dal is putting together. So there are courses that are available now, and then there are courses that will be available throughout the course of the year. And I have the privilege of creating curriculum that allows us to really be on the forefront of what is going online right now, and how does that affect us as career professionals and our clients who are job searching, who are working on their online brand. So you can definitely check that out.
Yeah, and Sarah said here, great presentation, thank you. And I would agree, Ali, just your enthusiasm for this subject matter is off the charts. So thank you so much for sharing with us some tips and tricks. And I love just the layering of, you know, if you're digital literate, here's something that you can take away. If you're new, then here's something you can take away. So definitely some tips for everyone of every different stage in their digital understanding. So I just would like to thank, we're at noon here, and I would really love to thank again Ali for joining us, and would encourage you to fill out the survey that we have at the end of the webinar, just to give us a sense of what you thought, and if you'd like to receive more information in the future about other webinars that we have upcoming. We will be sending out an email follow-up, as Ali mentioned. She'll have a tip sheet there for you, and we'll also be sharing a link to the recording for the webinar if you'd like to share it with any of your colleagues.
Great.
So
Awesome.
thanks again, Ali. Really appreciate it. And enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. Take care.
Bye, everybody. Thanks.
Bye.